Today, I want to go through the process of implementing the Advanced Locomotion System with the Animal Behavior Kit. And this is a kit that has some excellent AI. It's a good, very well-rounded system. Has what they call a needs system, where the animals in the world will search for food and water. It has a breeding system where they actually will find mates and then they'll multiply. It has a home system to where you can have it so that at night, for instance, they'll go to rest in their home, and then during the day they'll come out. They can have hunger and thirst, or they can age and die from old age. It supports big open worlds as well. He's a nice spawning system in this, and it's very well done. He has a lot of good documentation as well. And so, if you're interested in some sort of a AI system for animals, both predators and prey, birds, fish, in your open world environment, this I think is a very good choice. So if you're interested in getting it, just head over to the Unreal Marketplace, search for Animal Behavior Kit. It's by Koki Games, and currently it's $79.99. He does put it on sale during the major Epic Store sales that they have. So if you're interested in waiting, it's not a big rush to get this. You could wait for him to put it on sale. Definitely a good investment. Of course, the Advanced Locomotion System, which I've done a number of tutorials on up to this point, is $59.99 right now. It was for free for the month a couple months back now, so a lot of people do have it in their library. So if you just happen to go and click and get all those each month and you don't always look at them, I would take a look and see if you have the Advanced Locomotion System. And he's going to be coming up with a new version 4 here pretty soon, and a separate purchased climbing system that you can integrate into the ALS system. So let's go ahead and get started. First, you'll want to add the basic projects. So create projects, put them on your desktop or wherever you want to store those. I'm going to have the Animal Behavior Kit, and this is going to be just the standard pack. And then I have one for ALS, which is Advanced Locomotion System, that right now I'm calling ALS_ABK. That's because I'm going to bring Animal Behavior Kit into the ALS system. So we'll go ahead and just, I'll have that name that. Animal Behavior Kit is purely going to be for the merge process, and then we'll be bringing it into one project here. So go ahead, and if you would like, go ahead and open up Animal Behavior Kit. You can take a look, see what all is here. We have just the big open world. He has a lot of demos of animals roaming. So here's their different roaming behaviors. You can have them in a bounding box like you see there. This will go to random waypoints across this area that it can traverse. This one will follow a path, so if you saw it, it would be going around these trees. This one, when they're attacked, so you have these animals that will run away from you. If you run in there, it'll run away from you. You have these ones that will actually go and hide. So if they see you, they'll run and they'll hide behind something so that you can't see them. This is a defend behavior for this bear. So if you come over here, stand on this block, he'll come over, he'll stand there and then attack you if you get too close. And this one, they will just attack you if they see you. These are general attack animals. The need system shows where they'll come up and eat from these plants. They'll drink from the little lake here. There's a hunting system, so these animals will hunt the other animals. Grouping behaviors, where they will actually follow. So like here is the buck. The does will follow. And they'll go and drink from the water as a group and kind of wander around together. They have looking for mates. So these ones you'll see, once they see a member of the opposite sex, they'll run over to them and they'll mate with those, pair with them, and then you'll have baby deer that result. And then population control. So you can have it so they keep on spawning regardless of, like let's say this predator goes and kills some of them. They will then spawn to kind of keep an even population in the world. They have it to where there is a companion system. So you can come up here, you can name this bear, and it will follow you around. You can have it to where you don't have to put a name on it. With your gun, you can shoot at the animal and it's like a bait. The deer or the whatever will start following you, whatever you have there. Here you can set a name and you don't have to use bait. Also, they have on here fish that will swim around and birds up there that you can see that will fly around. Those are using, they're just kind of flexing and moving. They're not, if you add your birds in that have actual animations and flap their wings, it will be, it'll be much more intensive on the system, and you won't be able to put nearly as many. The way he has them doing is kind of like what the fish do. You know, they just kind of, the mesh flexes and bends. That's what those birds are doing up there for the wings. So that's the most efficient way. So if you can get away with that, that's a good way to do it, because then you can put a lot more birds in the environment. So that's the general system. Right now, you'll notice when you hit play, there's very basic animations, but we're going to go and fix that. So to begin with, let's go ahead and also we want to open up the ALS project. We will be doing a migrate of this folder right here, but there are a few things that we need to first do to the environment we're moving to. And so we'll kind of set that up so that it has, first of all, some things for the enabled environment query system. There is a collision for the AI collision that you need to have. We'll add that. So in ALS, go to Edit. Let's go to Editor Preferences. And in the search, type Environment, and you'll see Environment Querying System. You need to make sure that is checked. Okay, then you can close that. And now we want to go to Edit, and we want to go to Project Settings. In here, first we want to look at collision. So if you go to collision right here, you'll see object channels. We need to add one new object channel and call it AI underscore collision. Leave it as block. And there you go. That should take care of that part. You're more than welcome in here to look at these various input mappings. These ones are the ALS ones. Let's go ahead and open up the ones for ABK. And compare these a little bit. You see there's a lot of things here we're going to have to add. So first of all, there's zoom in and zoom out for the camera on the shoulder. You can make it's invisible so that you don't get attacked. It makes it easier if you want to watch the system of the attack animals versus the prey. God mode, if you want to be able to allow them to attack you, but you don't want to die. Tab changes to the bait type. Now, one thing to keep in mind, some of these are being used by the current system, so by ALS. So we're going to have to go through later, and we'll try to fix some of these so that there are not conflicts. So we'll get that done as well. Let's go ahead, and now that we have, I'm going to close this part for now. Now that we have these settings changed here, we'll add to this later, these input mappings. But in the Animal Behavior Kit, right-click on Animal Behavior Kit, the folder, and choose Migrate. And then this will list all the files that are linked to it. And then you just need to choose. Now here is the ALS ABK folder content. You're going to need to browse to whatever your ALS folder is that you're going into, select content, then select folder, and now it will copy. That's bringing in here. You see you have a folder in ALS now. So it's copied all of those files. I'm going to close this for now. We'll reopen it later when we get to the inputs. But just for performance of the system and to make things a little bit faster, I'm going to close that for now. So what we want to do first is we need to look at what's in the two different systems. First of all, we have the blueprints of the character. This is the one that we're going to be taking this and pretty much integrating it into ALS. There also will be an animation blueprint that is fairly basic, but there are some things we want to check out in there. And so let's go ahead and we'll open this player character. And so this is under Animal Behavior Kit, Blueprints, Characters, Player. Okay, so you'll see a lot of errors, and that's fine. This is one we're going to be moving away from. A lot of it's just complaining that we didn't put those inputs in there. But the main things that we need to look at is look at the class settings. I always like to look at that first because you need to make sure that those are all in there. The parent class is character. That's normal. That's the default. But we have this BPI player con that we will need to add to the ALS blueprint. And then we have some functions. We have some components. So we're going to have to go through and just kind of integrate all of these. And there's a macro. Remember, macros do not copy over. We have to manually create that. And then wherever it's called, we need to replace that reference. So we've got this one open. Now let's go ahead and open the ALS version, Advanced Locomotion V3 Blueprints, ALS-based character. And this will be the standard system. If you have any experience with ALS, you'll be used to seeing this. But let's go ahead and look at these things on the components on the left-hand side. If we look at the ABK system, you'll notice that the cameras are named differently. What we could do is I'm going to get the name of the camera under ALS to keep that naming convention. And then I'm going to go to the camera boom in the player character, which is ABK. And I'm going to paste that name. So it's TP_spring arm with capital letters for the first of each word. And then the follow camera is going to be TP_camera. So I'm going to copy that name. I'm going to paste that into follow camera. That makes it so when I copy all these blueprints over, it automatically connects to that camera and I don't have to worry about it. There are some other things we'll have to connect, but first, let's go ahead and start adding, first of all, that interface. So BPI player con, I'm going to go to the ALS version, class settings, and then hit add under interfaces, BPI player con. There we go. I've got that added. I'm going to compile and save that. And then let's add some of these components. So we have the AI perception stimuli source. So what I could do is just, stimuli is a pretty unique word. AI perception stimuli source. Under add component, I'm going to search for that, select it, and you'll see it added it here to the bottom under ALS. Go back. Now we have BP comp player can tame. So let's do a search for that. We're going to add each of those. BP comp. Let's see, player can tame. Okay, so I'm just going to, it doesn't do the underscore, it's a space. So BP comp player can tame. So if you type player, you'll see that there. I'm going to select the first one. And the second one we saw there, I'm just going to hit the drop down and once again search for player and add the player HUD. So now we have all the same components under this part that we can add manually. The rest of these, what we can do is actually add and we'll start adding these to this. But first, we need to keep in mind that the skeletons right now between this character and this character, which you can't see because it's using the mannequin child, are different. We have not merged those skeletons yet. So let's go ahead and do a save all. I'm going to close each of those before we move forward. I want to bring those into the same character. Right click on content, fix up redirectors. Do a save all. Now let's do a filter. So I'm in the main window here, content, filter. And what I want to do is look under the character blueprint. So first of all, we can look at an easy way to find this. Let's look at skeletal mesh. You can see we have the mannequin for ALS, and then we have the epic, the one under epic content here for ABK. So I'm going to right click on this one for the SK mannequin. I'm going to put show in folder, and then I'm going to unfilter that. And you'll see we're in the folder for the ABK system. So it's under ABK, epic content, meshes, player. Let's open up this skeleton and let's take a look to see if there's anything unique here. So we've got all I see that's unique is this hand socket. So let's go ahead and copy that, right click, put copy selected bone. And then we need to go up to the ALS one. Under there, it's Advanced Locomotion V3 characters, mannequin, and then ALS mannequin skeleton. Open that up. And what you can do, someone actually pointed this out in one of my previous videos in the comments. You right click and you copy that hand socket. You don't have to copy it under the exact one. You can paste it to root. So paste socket. You notice that it put it in the right place. I was always doing an extra step. So we do that. It attaches it to the hand. You can hit save there. And now these two skeletons should be identical. So what we can do is go back to the skeleton that is under ABK, which is under Epic Content Meshes, and then Player. Let's now select this mannequin skeleton. Let's hit delete. So the UE4 mannequin skeleton under ABK. We're going to hit the drop down and choose the ALS mannequin skeleton. We're going to replace all those references. Use save selected. Okay, and that's gone. I'm going to do a fix up redirectors just to make sure everything's good. See that it does make changes that we need to do that for. And now we're going to replace this mannequin here. Now, you may ask, why do we not use the other mannequin from ALS? Well, this one does not have any of the post-process settings, so it won't have IK properly. So we'll just use the one from ALS, so that works properly. And we can delete the one under ABK. It'll say, okay, what do you want to replace it with? Just choose mannequin. That's the one that came with ALS. Save that. Let's do a quick, another fix up redirectors. Okay. We'll go back to that player and then I'm going to delete that physics mannequin asset. All right. So now these are both using the same skeleton, and we can open these back up. Okay, so I've got the ALS based character and the BP player character. I'm just going to hit compile and save on these. Some things were probably changed a little bit. Of course, this still has the errors, but that's fine. So now what we want to do is copy some of these extra things. So you have your mesh here and your mesh here. One thing that may be a little bit of an issue is that one is using the mannequin. So you're not going to see that in the preview, the viewport, which may be a little bit frustrating. What we could do is under the ALS based character, just hit the drop down, choose mannequin anim BP here in the anim class, and then choose mannequin for the skeleton. That won't hurt anything with the mannequin character. You notice that it doesn't have the right placement though. So let's go ahead and fix that first. I just want to be able to preview so you can see this. So under the Advanced Locomotion V3 characters mannequin, let's open up, blueprints. What we want to do is open up the mannequin character there. And we want to look at these rotations, the mesh location and rotation, and we want to match that in the ALS based character. So if you choose the character there, you'll see the location and rotation are 0. Well, we want to make it so it's a -92 for the location on Z. Notice when we do that, he drops down to the ground like he's supposed to. And then the rotation, we want to be -90 degrees for Z. Okay. Another thing that we probably want to do is, you'll notice there is you typed camera socket. It's attaching that first person camera to the head. I'm going to do that in the same thing. I'm going to go select the ALS based character. I'm going to search for camera socket in the upper right, and then you see here where it's none. Let's put head. And then I'm going to clear that filter. I'm selecting this camera, and then I'm going to reset that location just for visuals, and I'm going to rotate it so it's facing forward and it's attached to the head. So there we go. That way it looks right. So now we've got it to where we can actually preview this character. We'll see as we make changes how it looks. So under this, I want to select the two the components here, the FP gun and the spawn actor. I'm going to select those both and hit copy. And then I'm going to paste. But of course, it puts them down at the bottom here. You'll see the order. When you drag it up, you notice it removes the order. But what you just need to do is then drag, put it under the gun. and we need to rotate this properly. So you notice that it is turned around, but let's look at why this is facing the other way. Let's look under the mannequin. Actually, close that mannequin character. We'll get rid of that. We're going to look under the player character, and then we're going to look at that gun, and we'll see, oh, it's attached to the hand socket. So we want to attach it to the hand socket, and then reset these numbers here. So now let's look and see why. So rotation, I'm going to copy that rotation. Let's see if it, there we go. So I copied the rotation from the player character of the gun, and I put it here under this one. And you can see it's generally facing, if he had his arms up, that would be facing the correct direction. Now let's look at the spawn anchor, and you'll notice on it, it's at the end of that gun. Now, I don't really like this because it's relying on you having the gun in that exact position. I think a better way would be to add a socket to the gun, right, at the muzzle, and then add it to there. So let's go ahead and do that. There we go. So he has a muzzle socket on there. So what I did is I parented that. It's not always going to shoot forward. It's going to shoot where the gun's facing. We'll see how that responds. We may have to kind of fix that. But I'm just going to put it there for now. And you can see that it's going to shoot from the front of the gun as long as we're aiming forward. Of course, I'm assuming you're not going to use any of this default stuff in the end. So this will all be things that we end up redoing. So now we got this collision actor, we have an aim sphere, and we have a crosshair. So go ahead and select all three of those, right click and copy those, and then paste them under capsule component of the ALS base character. You notice that it parented, you don't want that, so go ahead and just drag them up on the aim sphere and it'll unparent those. Let's look, and that looks about right. So compile and save that. Now this Anim BP is using something that's holding a gun by default. ALS does not, so we're going to later go ahead and add that. But let's look at these player character and let's see if there's anything unique in these various components that we added. You'll notice there's a little yellow mark here. That means that's something custom. So we'll need to match these sections here. You notice this box isn't checked under ALS and there's not anything added. So let's go ahead and right click and choose copy. And let's paste that. And you'll notice it adds the whole array. So it adds all three to there. And then we'll check that box because that was checked on the other one as well. So compile and save that. Now let's go back and look at the next one. The player can tame. I'm going to bring up the other one so we can kind of compare those two. That looks, flip back and forth, that looks identical. So now let's look at the player HUD. And that looks identical as well. So pretty much I think we're at a point where all of these are the same. We have all of these different things added up here on the top. I don't see any other real settings that are of any significance other than in the ALS base character. Probably what we want to do is go to the base character here, and then under state values, we will probably want to do LSA Aiming, because in this demo, you'll be holding a gun the whole time. We're going to you'll have to add manually the feature of not having the gun. And then I'm going to do looking direction for the rotation so that the camera's always behind the player. So I think that's a good start. So we'll compile and save that. And let's take a look now at some various settings in this. We've got the construction script under player character. We'll want to add that. So I'm going to highlight those, right click and copy. And then under the ALS base character, let's go ahead and go to the construction script. We're going to paste these at the end. So just here, continue that on. Now you notice this tag is not created yet. So let's go ahead and in ALS base character, right click the tag and hit create variable tag. compile that so that we see all those options. And one thing is I like to keep these categories so they stay nice and sorted in the left-hand side. So let's select that category name. I'm going to copy it. I'm going to paste that so it's now properly over here under player stats. And then I'm going to copy this tag so that it puts that exact name in there. I'm going to paste it under the default tag. Now you'll see that that is added. And other than that, that's pretty much all those settings. One thing that we do need to add here before we go too far is under the player character, let's search in the filter for tag. You notice that the character has a tag, ABK player. Well, that is important because that's what the animals use and various things use to determine that you are a player. So for them to be able to run away from you or to attack you, that needs to be in there. But we need to go to the ALS base character, and then you look under tag. Now it's under here. So you just want to make sure that that is properly added, because if you're doing these steps and that's not in there, you will notice that that is an issue. It's looking for that exact tag. So under ALS base character, player stats. Actually, no, this is the wrong one. Sorry, I'll tell you why here in a second. This is that variable that we added. All it is showing this. We want it here. So under actor, tags. So I'm going to paste that in there. You'll see it added the tag for this actor. And now those animals will properly react to this character. So now let's go ahead and let's make this macro, because macros are always a pain. We need to get that added. So I'm going to double click to open it up, but I also clicked and selected the name, hit Control C, and then go under ALS base character, choose plus on the macro, paste that name in there. And now I'm going to copy everything under that macro, and I'm going to paste it here. Notice the input doesn't have anything, so I'm going to drag that on there, and there it added the input. And then the output, the same thing. I'm going to drag the very end into the output, and then I'm going to drag this variable in there. It does have a different name though, so let's go ahead and copy those. So one is then, or execute, just fine. Pull that up, then execute. Those are the normal ones, but then ground, we just want to call that ground. I'm going to match that in case you ever see, because he does have a lot of documentation, as I said. There's a random variable here. I don't know that it's used. I think he did it for testing. We can do a quick search here. It is being set at some point, so we'll go ahead and create it because it'll make us create it anyways later. So I'm going to enter ALS base character, right click, choose create variable. And then if you look at that variable, you notice that it has the category name. Other than that, it looks like it's all default. So I'm going to add that category name there, file and save that. So now we have the macro. I'm not sure exactly where he uses it. I think he references it in other blueprints, but it doesn't seem to be added anywhere inside of this blueprint. So I'm sure he uses it at some point. So we're adding it just to keep everything consistent. Let's take a quick look at some of these other functions. You'll notice that there's some on rep notifies. On rep took damage. You don't create those now. There are some variables that we'll be creating that when you check and select the replication of on rep, it will create these for us. So do not make those yet, but we are going to go through and make some of these other ones. One thing is there's the companion type that wasn't added. I'm going to go ahead and let's take a look here. The companion AI is the category and ground animal. We need to keep that in mind. I'm going to right click and create it. I'm going to put that category name in there. And by default, it's ground animal. So that's just fine. We don't have to worry about that. All right, so now let's go through and let's take a look at the rest of these. We've got the function make movement noise. We're going to be adding that. Function shoot bait and function get bait. So let's go and start with the movement noise. I'm going to select all of that. Actually, I'm going to select the name first because I want to make sure this name is identical. So I just selected and copied it. I'm going to hit plus function here. I'm going to paste that name. It opens it up right there for you. I'm now going to go back to the player character, copy all that, paste it, and connect that up. Now, when we compile, it's going to complain. And say, oh, look at all these variables that do not exist. Well, we need to start creating those. So take a look at the sound loudness. It's 0, so we don't have to worry about that as far as a setting. We just need to right click and hit create variable, but let's double check to make sure one thing. Okay, here, it's a local variable. You notice that there's not as many settings as you would normally see on a variable in the upper right. That's because it's a local variable. It's only used inside of this function. So when we right click and we want to create this and hit create local variable, you notice now it has the less settings. Compile that, hit save. And now we have all of those created. So let's go to the next one. Function shoot bait. I'm going to copy that name and hit plus. All right, we're now inside of that function. Let's go inside of the player character. Let's copy that, and I'm going to paste it over. We'll just get it to the end here. All right, I'm going to connect that up, and you'll notice that when we hit compile here, we get enough of these errors. So let's look at those. Once again, remember we learned our lesson about the local variables. Same thing, not very many variables there. And there's 3. There's the exact 3 variables that are existing. So we need to right click on each of those and create local variables. Compile that, save it. Let's double check. There's no particular settings. Pray 0, 0. Pray 0, 0. All right, so that should be fine. Everything else looks like it copied correctly in there. Now let's go to the get bait. I'm going to copy that name. Hit plus here. Created that exact same name. And make sure you're in it. Control A to pick everything. Control V to paste this. And then we will bring it close. All right, so there are some things missing here. I didn't notice those with the other ones. Well, let's just verify that. Yeah, nothing there. This one didn't have anything out, but this one, you'll notice that it has some variables that are being passed. So what we want to do is add these. So let's start with the dark green one under ALS space character. I'm just going to drag it since that's the first on the list. I'm going to drag it up there. You notice it adds it. I'm going to drag the light green one and add it. And then all we have to do is just fix the name. So we got selection. I'm going to copy that. Select this one. Paste selection. And amount. I copy that name. Paste that. Let's compile this. Okay, that part looks the same now. We've got 3 variables here. Let's take a look at these. Oh, those ones look like local variables. So what we will do is go through and just double check 0, 0, 0. No special settings for those. We'll just right click and create local variables. Compile really quick. Now there's at the end here, prey bait. So for some reason it didn't create these exactly, but they're already created. So what we'll do is in here, just expand an ALS based character. You have prey bait there. I'm going to drag it below and do a get. Control click, or you could drag it up there again. For some reason it just didn't recognize them. So I'm going to put predator bait for the second one. Connect it up. Rid of the old one. Let's do a compile and save. Now those should look the same. We have all of 3 of these manually created functions now. So we'll get to a point here later once we start copying code in where we'll see these other functions. there are these on reps that are going to be created. So let's go and start by going to the event graph. You notice that there's a lot of things in here that we're going to be copying over. So let's do a little bit of prep in the ALS based character. What we need to do is first find where there's a lot of input keys that are being used that would conflict. So I'm going to type pressed in search. You notice there's jump action, stance action. I just want to go to that section. So I'm going to double click on the first one. That takes me to this player input graph. I'm going to start removing these debug features because they just take up a lot of, I don't need them, and they take up a lot of keys that we're going to be using in this new system. You can always add these in, just add them whatever keyboard input you would want. We're going to keep a lot of these the same. Some things that you might want to keep in mind. First of all, I'm going to turn off the ragdoll, so I'm going to delete the ragdoll action. I'm going to delete switching the foot because I don't want to do that. You could always leave that in, maybe change it to a different letter. And I'm going to look over this one more time. I'm also going to remove these rotation modes because I'm going to have it where it's always behind. And there's, in the new system for ABK, there's one letter, the number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4. Those are all used. So that'll conflict. Let's go ahead and compile and save this. Really quickly, I'm going to go through and fix, this is purely personal preference, but I don't like the default keys for like the V key and things like that in ALS. I'll just get confused when I'm playing, and you'll notice me hitting all the wrong buttons. So I changed the stance, which is crouch to C. I'm going to remove these rotation 1 and 2s that we had. And then I changed the camera to V because I like to be for view. There we go. So also I'll remove the ragdoll action because I don't want that to conflict. All right. So now look at how we can start copying these. Let's take a quick browse. This gamepad input, pretty much default. We'll end up deleting that once we copy it over. The forward and back looks fairly default, except for there's a thing for noise, make noise so things detect you. So that we'll need to add. Jumping looks fairly default. I don't see anything especially particular about that. And the mouse input. So we won't have to worry about that. One thing is if you jump, when you land, when you drop off of something, there's some noise it makes, and you have your event ticks. Remember, when we copy these over, there will be an issue that we will discover a little bit later, but let's go ahead and get started. So to begin with, I'm going to select everything here under the base or the player character. I'm going to go to the event graph of the ALS base character. I'm going to hit paste. Now, it put it all here, but there will be some issues in the filter here on the left. Type custom. You notice custom event 1, custom event 2, and then the custom event. Those are things that pre-existed. So the begin play, we'll need to do that. So what we can do is here to the left, notice there's a begin play. I'm going to bring that up. And what I'll do is I'll actually take advantage of this sequence. I'm going to add a pin. I'm just going to move these down. And you wouldn't have to, but I'm just going to do it like this. And like this. There we go. We have our begin play. Actually, I'll wrap that whole box up so it's easy to find later. All right, so there's our begin play. We've gotten rid of that custom event. We also have some other ones in here. If you do a compile, you'll notice that it complains about a lot of different things. But let's go and double click that custom event. You'll notice pond landed. So this is on event landed that it's looking for. So event on landed. We need to search for that. Event on landed. You could do it down here or in the upper left. You could search for the left hand side. Event on landed. Going to double click that. And here's where that code is. So it's under default character events. So let's go to that event graph. And this is the event on landed. I'm going to select all that where it says pond landed on the ground. I'm going to cut it. And then I'm going to double click this event on landed to the left again. And then I'm going to paste it here. Because all we need for it to do is on this, execute it. So it's going to make some noise. Now here's a delay. I don't know that we really want the noise to be delayed. So what I'll do is I'll add it here just right after the event on landed. Put it right in the middle. And then connect it up. There we go. So now we have that replaced. So it's done that. But at the bottom, we see we have our event tick. So that'll be in the same place under the event graph where we copied it over. So this custom event 2 is an event tick. I'm going to cut that. I'm just going to move it up to the top really quick. Paste it there. So what we'll do is let's add, once again, more to the sequence and drag these to the bottom. And then we'll connect these up. There we go. I've added these all in there. Make sure it's using the event tick and not the custom event. And then I will put this comment box around it. File and save that. So now we have most of these. Let's look at some of this duplicate code though. Some things that we aren't going to need. We don't need this player gamepad input. That's already taken care of. We don't need this movement input other than this make noise event. So let's go ahead and highlight all of that where it says make noise while moving and then cut that. And then I'm going to find other references to this for add movement input. And notice that under the normal input that's there. So this is the one we don't want. So I'm going to delete all that. I'm going to go to this other one, which is under player movement input, normal input. And then I'm going to paste that at the end and connect them up. So now whenever you move, the player character will make some noise. Go back to the event graph here. This mouse input's duplicate. We can get rid of that. And all this jump code is duplicate. Like we're not going to use that jump system. Okay, what else can we do? Let's take a look at these actions. We've got crouch. I don't think we really need any. We have crouch already. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete this whole crouch, calling it crouch 2. Same thing with sprint. We don't really need any of that. I don't want to have extra stuff that we don't need. So let's delete that. So the rest of these, I think, are fairly expected. These have _2s on the end just because when we copy them, doesn't make a big difference. So it's purely just aesthetic on that. So let's go ahead and take a look. What are we missing now? So first of all, you'll notice there are some properties missing, variables that aren't created. We're going to start creating all those things. So we've got our aim pitch, our aim yaw. That's for when we're looking through the, because it's going to have a gun. ALS does not have a gun. You'll notice that there's a lot of things that are red, these nodes. If you right click on them, you'll notice you can refresh the node. That goes away, compile. You save. Now it's not there anymore. I think what we'll do is I'll cut this video off here. I'm trying to keep the individual segments. We're still right about 45 minutes on this one, but this will be part 1 of this. So we're at a point now where we've got a lot of this stuff copied over. We're probably about halfway there, I would say. But let's stop here. If you're interested in checking out more of these videos, make sure we'll have another video in this playlist for this particular merge. But make sure you like and subscribe and hit the bell on this video. If you want to come and hang out with other developers that are like-minded, go check out our Discord server in the description below. Also, I have a Patreon if you're interested in supporting me, helping to purchase assets like this that I can give tutorials on, help with. Make sure you check out the Patreon. We have a number of different tiers that you can show support, and make sure that you just come and join the community. Our Discord is a huge part of this. We have a lot of fun with it, and I think that you'll enjoy hanging out and seeing some of the cool things that people are doing in there. So thank you very much. I will see you in the next video, and we will complete this merge of ALS and ABK.